Shalom Aleichem. Our topic in honor of and in anticipation of the 3 weeks becoming days of Binyan Beis Hamikdash. So I thought this week and next, God willing, to deal with something that is connected with the Beis Hamikdash. As a Levi, two out of the three of the Levim's duties are guarding the Beis Hamikdash. They do along with the Kohanim, and the other is the Shira. The third is closing and opening the gates of the Beis Hamikdash. So God willing, this week we'll be discussing guarding the Beit HaMikdash night and day. We'll even be ending with an interesting discussion that happened, that came up a number of generations ago about whether this mitzvah is obligatory nowadays, in modern times, guarding the Beit HaMikdash. And God willing, next time I would also like to do a mix of the practical and the anticipatory, Shiras Levim in the Beis Hamikdash, and the Shir Shel Yom that we say, and try to understand the different customs that exist, the different practice that exists on Shir Shel Yom Bisman Hazeh. Hopefully get a sense of Minhag Hagra, maybe some of the Sephardi Minhagim. Okay. The question we're going to ask is very straightforward and simple. One corner of this topic, which is the mitzvah of guarding the Beit HaMikdash, which is one of the 613 positive mitzvahs, and not guarding is one of the negative mitzvahs. So of the 613 mitzvahs, two of them, one positive, one negative, are dedicated towards guarding the Beit HaMikdash. Does this mitzvah apply only at night, or does it apply by night and day? So first of all, who says what? And then God willing, what we'll do is try to go from there to try and understand, to take a step back, to zoom out and try to understand the mitzvah of guarding the Beit HaMikdash in general, and perhaps that sheds a light on whether it should be done during the night or during the day. The Rambam is very clear on this. There are some girsa issues in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, but mitzvahs aseh chav beis v'hu shetzivanu lishmor hamikdash v'lalechet svivo tamid b'chol laila kol halayla. So there's a mitzvah to guard the mikdash and to go around it all the time, every night, all night. And the prohibition, that's the mitzvah lo taseh samach zayin, sheizhiranu mihit'atzel b'shrias hamikdash umilelech svivo tamid kol halayla, that we have been warned against being, in quotation marks, lazy and lax in guarding the mikdash and surrounding it all night. And when the Rambam gets to the question of when the mikdash, the mitzvah of guarding the mikdash applies, so he says in Hilchos Beis HaBechira Perek Ches Halacha Beis Ushmira Zo Mitzvasa Kol Halayla. This mitzvah is all night. Other Rishonim agree. The Sefer Chinuch often goes with the Rambam, and sure enough, that is true here. Shenitztavu Akonim VaLevim Lishmor HaMikdash. This is in the mitzvah Shin Pei Ches in the Sefer Chinuch, where he says mitzvah shviras hamikdash shenitztavu hakohanim v'alavim lishmor hamikdash v'lalechet svivo tamid b'chol laila v'laila kol halayla, every night, all night. So that's the Sefer HaChinuch, and the Rash on Maseches Midos, Mishnah Aleph, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Aleph, Shomrim Beis HaMikdash, and he says one word, Balelos, at nights. So the Rash, the Sefer HaChinuch, the Rambam, the mitzvah is at night. However, there are those that differ. The Rosh in Maseches Tamid, the beginning of Tamid, he says, Shalo yasichu da'ata mimenu, they should not lose consciousness of the Beis HaMikdash by night or by day. Kirichsi beyoyada Malachim Beis Perek Yud Aleph Ushmartem es mishmeres habayis misach. You should guard. You should watch the watch of the Beis Hamikdash from ignoring it. Misach, from like hesech hadas, and avoid sach. And there is a, as far as I know, we don't know who this is. There is a commentary that is not Rashi on Maseches Tamid, and he's referred to by people as the Mefaresh, and it's widely quoted, so it's from the Rishonim, but I don't know who it is, and I don't know if we know who it is. He says as follows: "V'akohanim hayu shomrim oso ba'aliyos al makom gavoa kederech shomrei ha'ir," and the Kohanim would be guarding the Beis Hamikdash on a second floor at a high place, the way that guardians of the city would guard it. V'chol shomrei ha'ir bein bayom bein balayla lo hayu yishenim. And just like guardians of the city, by night and by day, they didn't sleep. And there were 24 that were watching in 24 places. And that's learned out from the Gemara. Shetzarach lebeis hamikdash hayu shomrim yom v'layla. They would watch by day and by night. So the perushim, the Rishonim are stacked up. The Rambam, Sefer HaChinuch, and the Rash as Shmira is at night. On the other hand, the Rosh, Rabbi Asher, and the Mefarish of Maseches Tamid say that Shmira is Bayom of Alayla. Now, there's an interesting back and forth. The Mishnah Lamelech says he just quotes the opinions, and he says, Sarchina, where would the Mefarish get such a thing that you would do Shmira by day and by night? And the Minchas Chinuch responds, I don't understand what he's wondering about. Where would you have a reason to restrict it to the night? So that leaves us to discuss this topic. Now, is there any proof from the psukim? So there are a group of psukim that are connected with watching the Mikdash in the Chumash, and there doesn't seem to be any clarity about whether it's by day or by night. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos quotes those psukim. Again, it's based on the Gemara. Who should sivanu lishmar Hamikdash v'lalechet svivot tamid b'chol laila kol halayla legadlo lechabdo l'romamo v'hu amro la'aron ve'ata ubanecha itach lifnei oel ha'idus. You and your children, that's the Kohanim's side in watching. There, you are going to be before, in front of the tent of testimony. So that's the Kohanim. And the command also is Vishamru es mishmeres oel moed. They should watch. They should guard the guarding of the oel moed. So you don't see anything about time there. Here's the psukim all in one shot. In Perek Yud Ches Bamidbar, Vayomar Hashem el Aaron, Atau v'necha veis avicha itach, tisu es avon Hamikdash. You should bear the sin of the Mikdash. V'atem v'atau v'necha, or the itach tisu es avon kunaschem. And you will bear, meaning the responsibility of guarding sins related to the Mikdash, and sins related to the Kahuna is in the hands of Aaron and his sons, of the Kohanim. Your brothers of the tribe of Levi, your father's tribe, bring them close with you. They will join you and they will serve you on this. Join you in service on this. You and your children along with you, along with the Levim, you should all be in front of the Oel HaIdus, as we said, the tent of testimony. V'shamru mishmartecha u'mishmeres kol ha'oel. They should all watch your guarding, your watch, and the watch of the entire tent of testimony. The Levim shouldn't come close to places where they're not supposed to be, so that neither you nor they should die. V'nilvu elecha, they will join you. V'shamruas mishmeres oel moed lechol avodas haoel v'zar lo yikrav aleichem. They should watch the guarding the watch of the oel moed, and for all service of the oel v'zar lo yikrav aleichem. And somebody who is not a coin should not come close. Ushmartem is mishmeres hakodesh veis mishmeres hamizbech v'lo yod ketzav al bnei Israel. So this is repeated time and again, watching, guarding, but no mention of time at all. So this issue of night versus day, the psukim don't really give us any indication. Again, somebody could say, well, if nothing is mentioned, so assume it's all the time. But there doesn't seem to be any. It seems to be an issue that's not related to in the psukim. Now, what the literature on this topic, and I heard a nice shir by Rav Asher Weiss on this. Surprise, meaning I didn't realize he had a shir on it, and I was doing something in the house and I wanted to listen to a shir on this topic while I was doing it. So I just searched, and sure enough, his name came up with a shir on Shmiras Hamikdash. So it came up. Just also to share some of my sources. I forgot that I had a sefer called Shmiras Hamikdash by a certain Rav Hillel ben Shlomo, which I bought when I was at the Machon Hamikdash, which was interesting. And I have two svarim that I got as a gift. Each one of them was as a gift from somebody who knew I was a Levi and thought I would appreciate it. One is called Toras Levim, which is by a Rav in Chicago. His name is Siegel, Rabbi Joseph Siegel. And it's on it's a list of comments on quotes from the Rambam that have to do with the Levim, all things having to do with the Levim. And the second one is a sefer called Toras Levim, and both were given to me by different people, in very different contexts. As a gift. One, a neighbor said, "Oh, you're a Levi. I saw this in the store. I thought you might like it." And the other one was somebody who had moved into an apartment, a rental unit, and the owner of the rental unit said, "Yeah, if there's any svarim you want, you can take them." And so he gave me this sefer because he thought I would be interested in it. Okay, so one of the issues that might be relevant for whether Shmiras HaMikdash, whether the mitzvah of guarding the Mikdash is by night, or by night and by day, might be the reason for the Shmira. Now, just a word on Tamei mitzvahs. There is a discipline which is referred to as Tamei mitzvahs, the reasons for the mitzvahs, and that discipline involves searching for the rationales behind the mitzvahs. Sometimes it's what is accomplished through this mitzvah, whether it's spiritually or socially. Sometimes it's how does this mitzvah fit into some of the grander themes of Torah. Ava, Yira, etc. And however, there is a realm which is not so much. Now, excuse me. That issue of Tamei mitzvahs, the reasons for the mitzvahs, is usually external to the rules of the mitzvahs. Meaning, there's the mitzvah and its laws, and then there are the reasons that we try to understand based on the mitzvah. However, we say, whereas there is a machlokas between Rav Meir and others about darshin on time of the kra, lo darshin on time of the kra, which means, do we say that the mitzvah's laws are dependent on what seems to be the reason? And we don't rule that way. The classic case is a the prohibition against taking a deposit on a loan from the clothing of an almana, of a widow. What about a rich widow, where it's no skin off her back, it's no big deal at all? So do we say we don't make distinctions like that based on what seems to be the reasoning behind the mitzvahs, or do we say yes and we rule that we don't? So usually we divide between the realm of Tamei mitzvahs, which you'll find in the Sefer HaChinuch when he discusses Shorshei mitzvah, or you'll find in the Rambam's Moreh Nevuchim when he, in his third section of the Moreh Nevuchim, discusses different rationales for the mitzvahs, or various other svarim which collect Tamei mitzvahs, the reasons, the rationales behind the mitzvahs. However, very often the reason for the mitzvah is built into the laws of the mitzvah, and you see that the laws of the mitzvah are dependent on the reason, and that's what the suggestion is here. So I like to share three things that I saw came up. Number one is the simple understanding of the psukim. As Rav Asher Weiss points out, the simple understanding of the psukim is that the reason for the mitzvah of Shmiras Hamikdash is that people that shouldn't be entering the Beis Hamikdash should be kept out. The whole thing is presented after the Korach episode, even though there are psukim that relate to it, but the mitzvah is presented most clearly after the Korach episode, and it says, "V'shamru mishmar tachal mishmeres kol ha'oel, achal klei hakodesh ve'el hamizbeach lo yikravu v'lo yamusu gam heim gam atem." And similarly, "V'nilvu elecha v'shamru es mishmeres ha'oel moed l'chol avodas ha'oel v'zar lo yikrav alechem." Somebody who is supposed to be an outsider, a non-Kohen, should not come close. Ushmartem es mishmeres hakodesh ve'es mishmeres hamizbeach. Once again, guarding, watching, v'lo ye'od ketzev al b'nei Israel, that this shouldn't happen again, that people come too close to the holy places that they're not supposed to be going into. This, of course, was the great challenge of Mount Sinai. There was this prohibition of going onto the mountain, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu double checks that Moshe Rabbeinu warned Am Yisrael about this thing, and they're not going to go onto the mountain because Hashem said they're not supposed to go onto the mountain. So we find that in many contexts that people are to go up to so far and no further, which isn't always simple for somebody who has a she'ifa for ruchnius, who has aspirations for spirituality. That perhaps is the Nadav and Avihu story. The Shem Mishmol says it was a big challenge for Am Yisrael not to run onto the mountain because Am Yisrael is driven towards ruchnius, and so not going onto the mountain was a big test, was a big challenge for them. So this issue of those who aren't supposed to come too close, not coming too close, that's the simple meaning of the psukim of the reason for the shmirah. Well, should that apply by day or by night? Well, by night the doors are locked, the gates are locked, and no one's going in, no one's going out. And so the real issue would probably be by day, when people are around, people are coming in. So that's kind of difficult to say that you would be the mitzvah would be by night. If you say that it's by day and by night, so that's a little more open. But then the question is, like, why by night? Though you could say, at night it's true the doors were locked, but maybe somebody's going to somehow sneak in. I don't know exactly how. I'm reminded of a kind of a creative quip that is quoted in the name of the Kotzker Rebbe. The Gemara says that when Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel was the Nasi, and when he was deposed in favor of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, so Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah opened up the Beis Medrash much more than it had been in the times of Rabban Gamliel. It says they added 400 rows. So there was many more Talmidim. And previously, Rabban Gamliel had a guard at the entrance of the Beis Medrash. And Kol mi she'ein tocho kevaro, anybody who was not of perfect integrity, literally, his insides was not exactly like his outsides. So anybody who didn't have the proper integrity was not allowed inside of the Beis Hamikdash. The obvious question is, how is the shomer, how is the guard at the gate of the Beis Hamikdash supposed to know which people are tocho kavaro, which aren't? That's something, even by Shmuel Hanavi. So when he was trying to find who's the David HaMelech, who's going to be the anointed as the king amongst the children of Yishai. So what did Shmuel say every time he saw one of Yishai's sons, who each one was like greater than the previous one, and he says, ach neged Hashem mishicho, I see that God's anointed one is in front of me, and he was wrong, and Hashem said to Shmuel Hanavi, man sees externally, God sees internally. So how is a shomer supposed to know that somebody is tocho kavaro? So that's the question, and there's some answers, creative answers on this. One answer was they lock the doors, but somebody who really wants to get into the Beis Medrash will figure out a way to get in. That was one of the answers. Another answer is the person can go in. The guard was not a person sitting guard, but the person could go into the Beis Medrash, but the Torah won't enter the person. Again, that second one seems to not fit in so well with the pshat, and the first one also doesn't fit in so well with the pshat, because it sounds like there was a guard there, but it could be that the guard was the locking of the door. Again, it doesn't seem like those two answers to that question are trying to seek the pshat. But I just quoted it in the sense of at night. So who's gonna be able to get in? So that's one reason that is given for guarding the Beis Hamikdash. A second reason, by the way, you could add people that are tamei also. A second is guarding from theft. Now, this would be the first thing that you would think you need guards, because there's a lot of valuable things. There's silver, there's gold, there's copper. Everything is very, very the best quality. There's the coins that were donated by all of Klal Yisrael for all of the korbanos. There's a tremendous amount of money in the Beis Hamikdash. So this is nixed by the commentator on Talmud and by the Rush. The Mefarish says, "Umegmara nafkalan mikra de Beis Hamikdash storech shibur." De ilo nafkalan mikra hava mina de lo tzrichi shomrim de einanius b'makom ashirus. You might have, if you didn't have a pasuk to tell you that you need shmira, that there's a need for guards at the Beis Hamikdash, you wouldn't have thought to have guards. Why? Because the Gemara is a principle. Einanius, there is no poverty b'makom ashirus, in a place of wealth. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's his house, and this is a place of wealth. And if something's stolen, you replace it. Igan v'klei hamikdash kanu achirim. We have no lack of funds. Va'od dahavi amina debechad shomer sagi. And wait a second, if there was just guarding to make sure there's no theft, so it could be that one gate would be one guard would be, or guards insufficient. To paraphrase the Mefarish, guards in key open locations, they're crucial. But who says you would need all the 24 guards as they are? The Rush says something similar. Shimur ze'einu mishum chishuv geneva. This is not because of worrying about, being concerned about. That's what I think he means by chishuv of theft. So the Rosh and the Mafarish are very clear that the reason is not because of theft. The Rambam makes it very clear. The Rambam and others make it very clear, but we'll read from the Rambam. The Rambam quotes a statement by Chazal that others quote also, but the Rambam presents, we'll follow with the Rambam's presentation. In the Mechilta it says, Gedula leMikdash yesh alav shomrim. It is greatness of the Mikdash. It is something that it lends greatness to the Mikdash, the fact that there were guards. Lo doma palterin sheyesh aleh shomrim lepalterin she'ein aleh shomrim. There's no comparison between a palace that has guards and a palace that doesn't have guards. V'yadua ki palterin she'ema hechel. So the palace is the hechel, the Beis Hamikdash. Ve'amru ki mehagdalas ha'hechel v'romamuso sheyu shomrim mesudarim alav. It is part of the greatness and the elevated status of the Beis Hamikdash, the palace, that there are guards. Sefer Chinuch says something very similar. Chavodo shel bais hu liminos alav shomrim kederech hamalachim gdol, like great kings asher ba'aretz sheyasu kein. That's something that is common for kings to do. Ukamoshe ba b'mechilta eina doma, etc. There's no comparison between a palace with guards and a palace without guards. Of course, for everybody, what comes to mind is the guards in Buckingham Palace, lahavdil. I did not. I felt it was beneath the Beis Hamikdash's dignity for us to put a photo of the Buckingham Palace guards on the graphic for this week's Chabura. But that's our example. That's a classic example of an honor guard. That they are there for the honor of the palace. I did see once that the guards dressed in red did once deal with somebody who was an intruder. So perhaps it does. But mostly it's an honor guard. And so to speak, Hashem doesn't need our guards. The third reason for the guarding of the Beit Hamikdash is Kavod Hamikdash, honor of the Beit Hamikdash. Again, the first reason is to keep out people who aren't supposed to be going in. Zar, Tameh, those people that are either non-Kohanim or people that are impure in a way that they're prohibited to enter. The second approach is the knee-jerk reaction. There's a lot of valuable things, and then you have to make sure nobody steals anything. And b'derech hateva, it is very natural that people are going to steal, and since we're not all like the world's greatest tzaddikim, it's very realistic that we have to guard against stealing. But the third, but again, that is nixed by some of the Rishonim who say ein anios b'makom ashirus. That's in a place of wealth, so we don't get all worked up about. So okay, somebody steals something, you replace it. But the real reason, so to speak, according to the Rambam and the Rush and the Mefarish, are it's Kvod HaMikdash, it's honor. The Rambam echoes this in the later on in the Mishnah Torah. Shmiras HaMikdash mitzvah saseh v'afal pi she'ein sham pachad mi'oivim v'lo listim. There's a positive mitzvah to guard the Mikdash, even when there's no fear of enemies and no fear of thieves. She'ein shmirasu ela kavod lo. The honor is none other than honor to the guarding is none other than honor to the Beis Hamikdash. Ein adoma palterin sheish alav shomrim, the palterin she'ein alav shomrim. There is no comparison between a palace with guards and a palace without guards. And now, this perhaps, and that's what Rav Asher Weiss suggests, and I first thought the opposite, but I'll explain how the same svara could go in both directions. I believe my instinct was, well, if it's honor for the Beis Hamikdash, so it should be by night and the day. It should be constantly. On the other hand, as Rav Asher Weiss very nicely points out, at night there was no way to get in because everything was locked up. So the guards there are only for honor. During the day when it's open, so the guards wouldn't clearly be for honor. The clearly honor guards are at night. So it's true that there might be a need during the day to make sure that that intruders don't go in and people don't take advantage of the open gates to steal in and grab something. But that's practical. That's not the mitzvah of Shemiras Hamikdash. The mitzvah of Shemiras Hamikdash, says the Rambam, is at night when the only reason to guard it is honor. Again, I could have said the opposite, and you might have said, listen, even though the gates are locked, but still, nothing's foolproof, and you still need guards. But oh, interesting. But I thought that was that the fellow? Does that the fellow who snuck in along with a Yefemot? Have a look at Ariel's comments. So, are you referring to the person?
I recall that from a footnote to Mishnah Yoma.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember any more details.
Right. So somebody got in, but it could, it was a non-Jew who got in with the Korban Pesach, right? Is that what you're referring to, or something else?
Not sure.
Okay. Whatever the case, so now the Rambam then right away says Ushmir zo mitzvah sakol halayla. Okay, who guards the Kohanim and the Levim? If they didn't guard, there's a negative commandment. There's a prohibition. Now, where did they guard? And this is the reason why I kept on these Rambams, because I think there's one more point that might be relevant. Mitzvah shmiraso shiva kohanim shomrim mibifnim ve'alavim mibachutz v'chavta al eda shomrim oso b'chol laila tamid v'chavta al makom ve'akohanim begimel makomos ve'alavim b'chol al makom. So the Kohanim are guarding from the inside of the Beis Hamikdash, the Levim from the outside of them, and there's 24 groups of Shomrim, all during the night, all night, in 24 places. The Kohanim were in 3 places, the Levim were in 21 places. Where were those places? So if it's because of intruders, so then it should only be by gates. But we find that it wasn't only by gates. This was a comment that Rav Asher Weiss pointed out. Heichan Alevim hayu shomrim al chamisha shari harabayis, 5 gates, ve'al arba pinosav, on the 4 corners of the Beis Hamikdash. Well, who can enter through the 4 corners? That's simply at the corners of the Beis Hamikdash there were guards. That's honor. Arba pinos azor mi bachutz. So that seems to be also an indication that it's because of honor. Now, I just want to mention without going into it in depth, but the issue of, is there Shmiras Hamikdash bisman hazeh? Is this mitzvah applicable today? So there was somebody whose name was Rav Hillel Moshe Meshel Globstein of Bialystok, and at a certain point he made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, and he was he was interested in renewing the mitzvah of Shmiras Hamikdash nowadays. And he wrote a letter to the Avnei Nezer, to the Rav Avram of Sachachav, uh, who responded with a many-faceted letter that is one of the central sources on this topic of Shmiras Hamikdash. It's in Yoredea Tuf Mem Tes, and the Avnei Nezer. I just there's two things that I want to share from the Avnei Nezer. Again, he has a whole discussion. He holds that Shmiras Hamikdash is not shaykh bizman hazeh. He gives his reason. Rav Asher Weiss gave a simple reason. The guard is for the palace, and the palace isn't up now. So when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, this mitzvah is totally directly on the Beis Hamikdash, on the building, not on the place of the Mikdash or the like. And especially if it's a matter of kavod hamikdash, but it's kavod habayis, not just kavod makom hamikdash. So, but the Avnei Nezer adds an idea. I think that's very helpful. If you're not convinced of that svara that guarding by night is only for honor because guarding by night was unnecessary because of locked gates. So if you think of it, maybe even the opposite. So and you say guarding by night looks like you're guarding against theft at the time when thieves might sneak in at night, and they'll figure out a way to pick the lock of the Beis Hamikdash. You can pick the lock of a bank. You can pick the lock of a Beis Hamikdash. So what he suggests is that even though the mitzvah is kavod hamikdash, and even if you say eina nius b'makom ashirus, or that Hashem doesn't need our guards, but still the kavod of the mikdash is that there should be guards that prevent even the possibility of theft. In other words, the reason behind the guarding is the honor of the Beis Hamikdash, but the style of guarding is guarding against thefts. And the honor side of it is it's not goal oriented to prevent the theft. It's honor oriented that the Beis Hamikdash should be the kind of a place where no one would ever even be able to think of stealing, because the guard is so intense. You know, it's like the nuclear reactor, which has fences and fences and fences and fences around it. So the Beis Hamikdash is so well guarded for its honor that its honor is that theft should be impossible. That's basically his svara. And similarly, that it shouldn't be even possible that somebody could come in there that's not supposed to come in. So he brings together the two things. The tam of the mitzvah is honor, but the tzura of the mitzvah, the style of the mitzvah, is guarding from ganavim. So that's a suggestion. Again, he concludes that it's not shaykh bizman hazeh. Similarly, the Rav Asher Weiss explains, I think, a very simple way. It does come up in the Sefer, which is from Machon Hamikdash. Maybe there is reason to guard against people coming in that shouldn't be coming in. Anyways, okay, that's what I wanted to share with you. The mitzvah of guarding the Beis Hamikdash, the machlokas between the Rambam and the chinuch and the rash on the one side, that it's only by night, versus the mefarish and the rush on the other, who say that it's by day and by night, and possible reasons for this distinction. It could be that if it's kavod, that would you can understand the kavod issue in two different ways, but the svara of the Rambam would be that it's kavod, even at a time when there's not a need for guards. So so you still guard it. Or in the nusach of the Avnei Nezer, you guard it in a way that an intruder or theft is just totally impossible. That's what I wanted to share with you today uh, about this topic.